60,000 vacant units are needed to address Montreal's housing shortage. What's causing the housing shortage in the city, and how can we address this need? Let's look at what factors are contributing to the lack of available units.
Airbnb, rent evictions, the lack of social housing being built in Montreal and the rest of the province, the hoarding of housing, and government policies that prioritize housing as a commodity. So how did we end up in this crisis? We'll look into Airbnb first.
Montreal and the province have enacted regulations and laws to regulate Airbnb and prevent these short-term rentals from existing in certain areas of the city. Revenue Quebec has been issuing fines to illegal Airbnbs, but with only 25 inspectors province-wide, they can't keep up with an estimated 100,000 listings in Quebec. In Montreal, approximately 85% of Airbnbs are illegal.
In Montreal, at least 6,000 of these are full-time listings that are fully removed from the market. While this might not seem like a lot in like the grand scheme of the whole city, let's say 2% of all the housing in a neighborhood is now Airbnbs. You might think, well, it's 2%. How significant could that be? Well, that's what the vacancy rate is. You just take that many houses off the market and that's it.
It wouldn't be the entire solution though, because we do have a serious housing shortage in Canada. I think the best possible method of attacking the housing affordability crisis right now is to build social housing.
Social housing is under threat in Montreal and in the rest of the province since the CAQ government ended the social housing program Accès Logis in February. Social housing will now be built under the new program, the Société d'habitation du Québec. This program was announced by the province in 2021, but no new housing has been built under it since.
New regulations by the Quebec government allows for-profit developers to charge higher rents.
When you build a new apartment building, when you build a new rental building, you're exempt from the rental limits for about 5 years.
This means developers will be exempted from following rent increases recommended by the Tribunal administratif du logement, which supervises Quebec's residential rental market.
We're really lucky in a lot of ways. You know, like compared to Alberta per se, there's no rent control of any kind. And there's stories of people in Alberta who have their rent increased literally 25% overnight. Luckily, we don't have it quite like that here, but there is a huge onus on the tenant. Like, the government is not going to enforce these things unless the tenant specifically knows their rights, has the resources to actually go to court and fight this thing out.
The housing crisis isn't something that was created under the pandemic or only in the last few years, but decades of government policies have led to this.
The federal government used to have large incentive programs to build housing in Canada. Now, the main kind of most important thing that they built was affordable housing, but they also just incentivized a lot of market units, just build a lot. They gave a bunch of money, said build a bunch of rental, and that's what happened. But in 1993, that stopped. And it stopped for a reason. And the main reason is because rich developers wanted to stop. They knew that if you stop building housing, eventually at some time you're going to get a housing crunch and they're going to make a ton of money.
With landlords dictating the state of our rental market through illegal Airbnbs, rent evictions, and treating housing as a profitable sector instead of a human right, how can we address the issue of needing 60,000 vacant units in Montreal right now?
We got to build, and we have to densify in the city cores in the Montreal urban area. We don't want to ever build on farmland because there's a food security issue, which is very serious. We don't want to build on wetlands or any other green space because of climate change reasons and biodiversity reasons. So we have to densify.
The main thing that we've been trying to hit for 30 years is a return to increasing supply. So it's the government essentially building more housing, bringing back these programs that were very successful, that treated housing not as a commodity or investment, but as infrastructure, like roads, electrical grid, and water pipes, and schools and hospitals. That's how housing is to be seen, right? You need housing if you're going to have all these other things. And so the government had a large role, but they got rid of that. And that's pretty easy, except for the federal government's probably not going to do it because they're so in the pocket of like development industry and the landlord industry. There's been really nothing being done to deal with, why are these people allowed to buy housing and hoard it and keep running up prices? Why do you have real estate investment trusts that are able to put housing into a tax-free vehicle? The Minister of Housing is the landlord, federal housing advocate is the landlord. So again, I don't even think that the idea of kind of bringing back these programs is on the radar. The federal government, who's just completely in bed with industry, are they actually going to piss off their base? No. Are they going to piss off the people that have made major gains on their homes over the last 10 years? Probably not.
What other solutions do you think that the municipal, provincial, and federal governments should offer to provide enough housing? Let us know below in the comments.